Everyone thinks this old lonely virgin is the weakest of them all, but after he's been appointed as an instructor for the Knights of the Liberian Order, he shows everyone how strong he is and gets surrounded by hot baddies. In the city, a man in his 40s trains with a wooden sword while his father complains that there should be grandchildren by now. The son insists this is his moment, but the father, who began teaching him 20 years ago, says his technique is impressive, yet accuses him of ignoring family. The man is soon welcomed by eager students and argues that running the dojo and attracting more female students shows responsibility. Besides, he's not even married. His father suggests dating a student, but the son firmly says the dojo isn't for romance. This humble dojo has passed down sword skills for generations. The teacher was raised there, always drawn to swords. Not much has changed. He works hard to keep it going. Though he once dreamed of being a top swordsman, he now finds purpose in teaching, and he takes pride in his students' successes. Later, as he grabs a meal, his father resumes nagging about grandkids. The old man wonders if his wife wouldn't be happy if Beryl found a partner and gave them a grandchild, but she believes things should happen naturally and not be rushed, though she's confident they'll have grandkids someday. Beryl then realizes his mother isn't taking sides. Suddenly, someone knocks. It's a young woman in armor named Alucia Citrus, who greets her old teacher. He invites her in for tea. His father mentions she always writes, and he knows she's now a commander, meaning Beryl trained her well. The teacher asks why she's visiting, and Alucia says she's also teaching fencing and recommended Beryl as a special instructor, which was approved. The teacher thinks it's a joke until she shows the official document. Beryl's dad jokes he'll die if he doesn't sign it, and Alucia says it's not that serious, but there would be consequences. She came by carriage to take Beryl to the capital for the night, so they can talk more tomorrow. Though surprised by the speed of it all, the father encourages him to go, maybe even charm the young lady. Beryl, annoyed, tells his dad to stop teasing, especially since she's much younger than him. Alucia behaves as if she wished her teacher had taken things more seriously. As the instructor rides to the capital, he notices Alucia still carries the sword he gave her after she finished training, something he does for all graduates. Though touched, he wonders if it suits a commander, but Alucia insists on keeping it. Beryl finds it funny that she still clings to the childish belief that a student can't surpass the teacher, especially now that he's too old to be that mentor. Still, he's excited that a rural sword master like him is getting a shot in the capital, and Alucia quietly feels she must improve to truly earn his respect, though she keeps that thought to herself. They reach Baltrain, and Beryl, dropped off in his inn, wanders the streets feeling his age. The next day, Alucia tells her troops she brought Beryl to be Order of Freedom's special instructor, admitting she can't even match him in skill. When she introduces him, Beryl gets nervous but eventually gathers courage, delivers his speech, and hopes to be helpful and make the partnership work. At the end of the speech, one soldier quietly asks if they should worry, while another looks annoyed. After dismissing the men, the commander compliments the new instructor and mentions he'll train the knights a few times a month, which won't affect his dojo work. Just then, a knight named Kiruni rushes over to greet her old mentor, remembering a past reprimand. Beryl is proud she's now a true knight, though she admits there's still much to learn. He recalls her 2 years of hard work at the dojo and is glad to train with her again. That night, Beryl is pleased to have 2 former students in the order, but is shocked to find Randrid, another past student, waiting inside with his wife and child. Despite the warm reunion, Beryl's father insists Randrid should stay in Baltrain for his job and only return once married. Though uncertain, Beryl joins him at the table and learns Randrid is settling down now that he's a father, giving up his travels. The professor sees it as a big change for someone of Randrid's status. And while Randrid feels guilty, Beryl knows it was his own effort, not just the training, that made him who he is. Though adventurers can earn well, it's a dangerous job. Beryl's father says Randrid got lucky since he knows the dojo's style and could replace the old teacher. Randrid agrees to help, leaving Beryl stunned by how fast things happened, especially when his dad tricks him into managing the dojo while he's gone and even invites the whole family to stay over, prompting Beryl to grumble that it's his house. Later, the professor tells Alucia, who acts annoyed but secretly wanted the master nearby. Beryl apologizes for bringing Randrid since the inn was pricey, and Alucia boldly invites him to stay with her, only for him to awkwardly decline like it was some strange joke, though she still offers lunch to get time with him. Just then, a woman on the street says the commander is walking with some coward-looking guy, embarrassing Beryl, who hides, thinking he's ruining Alucia's image, but Alucia has Lysander shut the woman up, though the gossip continues, asking why someone like that would be called master. Beryl then notices she has a black-ranked adventurer badge. Lysander faces someone unfamiliar, until she realizes it's Master Beryl. As expected, he doesn't recognize her. It's been 20 years. She reintroduces herself as Serena Lysindra, the girl he once took in and taught swordsmanship. The name sparks his memory of finding her lost by the river and training her. Grateful, Serena shares her success and wonders why he's with Citrus. The commander sharply explains Beryl is now an Order of Freedom instructor, and they're seeking a home for him in Baltrain. Serena, undeterred, says that as a former adventurer broker, she can help better than Citrus. They eventually find Beryl a place, and though he's grateful, he wishes they get along. They leave after saying goodbye, and he watches them go, thinking he's too old for city life, but glad his former students care. The next day, a powerful knight wins easily by snapping his opponent's wooden sword. After the duel, Lucius Citrus declares that Master Gardnet will take over as instructor. Rejecting the new teacher, a powerful knight claims only the strong can train members of the Order of Freedom and demands proof of skill. Beryl asks who he is, and Citrus reveals he's Hemblitz Drought, the Order's vice commander. Drought challenges the sensei, and Gardnet accepts to prove his worth. Though reluctant, Beryl enters the arena surrounded by doubtful knights, and he doesn't blame them. Drought mocks the commander's kindness, saying it can cause poor decisions, a point Beryl silently agrees with, though he hopes not to lose badly and embarrass Alucia. The duel begins with Drought attacking fiercely. Gardnet blocks every strike, aware that getting hit could be disastrous. He shifts his blade mid-block, counters, and strikes Drought's chin with a pommel. Concerned, he asks if Drought's okay, only making him angrier. They reset, and Beryl regrets hitting him, thinking it improper for a teacher. Before round 2, Drought warns he won't fall for another trick. Drought charges again, even harder, but Beryl defends well. Though Beryl knows the boy is quicker and stronger, his predictable moves give the sensei an edge. Reading the next attack, Beryl counters and knocks Drought back. Furious, Drought uses his signature sword-breaking move, but Beryl vanishes and reappears behind him, blade to his back. Shocked by the loss, Drought quickly turns into a fan, begging to learn the technique. Later, Drought hosts a celebration at a tavern for Beryl's promotion, apologizing for doubting him. Beryl understands it's natural to question a stranger. After some drinks, Alucia reminds the deputy she warned him about Beryl's skill. Kiruna jokes about their drinking stamina, admitting she can't keep up. Hamlet praises Beryl's technique again, and Beryl explains he simply matched Drought's movement. Kiruna finds it sounds easy, and Alucia agrees, but only for a master. Beryl says predicting moves and flexibility matter too. Had Drought been less stiff, he might have won. Inspired, Hemlet says he's excited to train with Beryl. Meanwhile, in the village, Beryl's father thanks Randrid, who replies that helping Beryl succeed brings him joy. The elder believes his son deserves more than this village, and Randrid agrees, saying he's never met a better swordsman than Gardnet. A week later, Master Gardnet held another training session. Early on, he humbly paused his sparring duo to suggest one adjust their distance. When the fighter looked puzzled, he illustrated how even a small shift in stance, while the enemy's eyes are fixed on your weapon, can decide survival. Beryl saw how unusually focused everyone was, as though he shared something groundbreaking in its simplicity. Afterward, Hemblitz offered the instructor a towel, and Beryl figured their respect stemmed from his recent match against the famed Drought. Not long after, Kiruna asked if he had time to see the capital, unfamiliar with city life. Beryl thought it smart to tag along, and she seemed delighted to guide him. In that moment, he felt sure of his place, at least for now. Meanwhile, during a strategy meeting, the battalion commander was told the Order of Freedom's plans were approved and that a budget was needed. When asked about the new trainer, Lucius Citrus admitted he had exceeded expectations. Later, she considered how mastery of the sword could lead to leadership, though it came at a great personal cost. She couldn't abandon her master, recalling when she first met Beryl Garden. Her family had moved near his dojo after hearing praise for his teaching. Since rural areas were often overlooked by the Order, her parents pushed for self-defense lessons. At her mother's urging, young Alucia met the gentle instructor, who quickly left a strong impression. She soon began training, guided patiently through basic moves and demanding drills that challenged her. Over the next 18 months, she trained hard and grew steadily more skilled and confident. What meant the most to her was how Beryl always celebrated her progress, no matter how minor. One practice, she noticed Randrid missing, but forgot it when Beryl announced attack training. Excited, she stepped up, yet found no opening. Trusting her gut, she struck. Beryl dodged and disarmed her easily, but praised her timing, saying it showed potential. Alucia understood what he meant, though at the time she assumed all fencing teachers could do what hers did. One day, Beryl took his students to a non-contact sparring event at another dojo. Rand fought first, winning instantly with a counter after his opponent charged in carelessly. Next up was Alucia, who immediately spotted flaws in her opponent's defense. Though he tried every attack he could, she dodged with ease and beat him on her first move after a brief stumble. On the way back, Beryl stressed the value of facing different styles. Alucia asked if their dojo was really that strong since they had easily won, including Beryl defeating the opposing master. Beryl answered that it was more about how styles matched than who won, and Alucia should focus on what she learned. Just then, she remembered she'd left something behind and ran back, only to be confronted by local students who surrounded her, holding her lost item. When she reached for it, a boy threw it down and mocked her, saying the duel meant nothing if she hadn't really won. None of them would ever lose to a simple country girl, or so they thought, until their leader tried to attack Alucia, but Beryl stepped in just in time to block it, and judging by the sensei's face, it wasn't a light strike. Beryl admitted he disliked how these kids treated fencing. When one boy lunged at him, Beryl disarmed him and fended off the others with light, non-injuring moves. The most aggressive one grabbed another sword to keep fighting, but their teacher arrived and scolded them, stating clearly that even together, they couldn't beat Beryl and that Gardenet's students were just superior. Beryl told the master to relax, noting the kids were just at a rough age. The teacher bowed and took the blame, which embarrassed Beryl, thinking it was too much. On the way home, Beryl had a bad feeling about Alucia returning there, but he went with her anyway. After he got hurt, she felt guilty, and instead of scolding her, Beryl took the blame and apologized for not stopping her. Alucia cried, not from fear, but because she realized that when emotions overflow, tears come no matter what. To comfort her, Beryl suggested getting something to eat. Sometime later, teacher and student faced off again in a training duel. Gardenet exhaled deeply and began, but Alucia made the decisive move, outmaneuvering him and for the first time, defeating her mentor. That day, he gave her his personal sword, believing she was ready even if she had doubts. Though she felt unworthy, she accepted it, torn between staying and leaving. Wanting to honor her master, Citrus entered the Order's trials. Her uncertainty vanished when she aced them. No one could match the reflexes and precision she learned. As she rose quickly to commander, she realized her mentor's talent deserved recognition, not obscurity. When she finally had the authority to choose an instructor, years had passed, but her master remained just as skilled, perhaps even better, refined with time. Some might think the woman was overreacting, but she was set on proving her teacher was worthy of recognition, so she took the initiative. Now, Alucia returns to her team and asks Hemblitz about training. He mentions Beryl impressed again. The teacher had gone off with Kurumi to explore the capital. Alucia feels a flicker of envy. She wanted to take him on a proper date, but brushes it off when Hemblitz misses her cue. Meanwhile, Beryl is fascinated by the bustling city market, so unlike his countryside home. Kurumi suggests checking out the West District, but Beryl prefers the sights up north. She teases him, saying only villagers like that, making him realize how out of place he feels. They soon run into another former student. Kurumi excitedly greets Ficelle, though Beryl doesn't recognize her until she jokes about crying and shows her farewell sword. That jogs his memory, and he's stunned at how much she's changed. She says it's been 5 years, and when the teacher asked about her training, Kurumi proudly announces Ficelle is now the Magic Corps' star, which confuses Beryl. He trained her in swordplay. Ficelle explains she's shopping for magical gear like a fire ring, but then lights a flame on her finger to prove she doesn't need one. Beryl's amazed and says she's truly a witch now. She admits it took hard work, and while her teacher regrets she left swordsmanship behind, he's proud of her growth. Suddenly, a man snatches an old woman's bag. While Beryl and Kearney react, Ficelle casts a binding spell with her sword, stopping the thief. Beryl is once again impressed, and Ficelle explains she combines sword and magic in her style, making her former master even prouder. The next morning, Gardenet takes a quiet stroll, hoping to feel more at home in the city. He heads to the West District to find a good spot to eat with Ficelle and Kurumi. When a tiny girl suddenly tries to get his attention, he assumes she's a lost child. The girl, calling herself Lucy Diamond, commander of the Libris Kingdom's Magic Corps, is offended. Beryl assumes she's just a kid playing make-believe and comments on the odd games of local children. Annoyed, Lucy conjures fire in her hand to prove she's serious, then hints she'd enjoy his company on this lovely morning. As they walk, she mentions learning from Ficelle that her master is in Baltrain and praises both Ficelle's magic and sword skills, crediting their teacher. When Beryl asks if she'd like to learn too, Lucy corrects him. She's older and deserves respect. She leads him to a makeshift arena, saying she trains daily to grow stronger and now wants to test her progress. Beryl agrees it's good to gauge progress, though he didn't expect to be the target. Dodging a sudden fire attack, he's impressed by her reflexes and sees flames circling her. Realizing she's serious, he draws his sword and prepares to fight. After striking first, Lucy ironically asks if he's ready. Beryl admits he's not, but has to fight back. She says it's a good test of progress, though he doubts he's a worthy rival. She launches a huge fireball, trying to end it fast. He barely dodges as she keeps attacking with fire, smiling all the while. As the heat builds, Lucy shifts to ice magic, but Beryl cuts through it, impressing her. She fires up again, and he charges in, aiming to knock her out safely. His blunt strike fails. She surrounds herself in flames and counters with a fiery storm. A second barrage rains down from above, nearly impossible to block. Jokingly, Lucy asks if he's ever fought a witch. He says it's his first and worst matchup. After dodging, he sees a massive ice sphere and returns it, only for her to destroy it midair. Using the smoke for cover, Beryl strikes, but she zaps him with lightning. She boasts about saving her best spell, a heavy dark aura that freezes him in place. Just as it becomes dangerous, she stops, saying it would fail too. Curious, Gardenet asks what would have happened. She says he'd be mush, or at best, scrambled. She admits he's strong and now understands why Ficelle respects him, but Beryl thinks she held back. He reflects on still not surpassing his father. Lucy laughs at his humility, especially since he isn't angry about the ambush. He shrugs, it's just a hassle. And she laughs again. He realizes he can't stay mad at her. She invites him to the Magic Institute to teach, but he refuses. The next day, he's surprised to see Ficelle delivering potions from the magic core to the Order. Beryl finds the potions useful, especially the herbal ones he often relies on. Ficelle hands him a bottle, saying it's an apology from Commander Lucy, revealing that the young girl is actually a high-ranking officer. Shocked, Beryl listens as Ficelle explains Lucy uses magic to stay youthful, though her real age remains unknown. When Beryl brings up their earlier clash, admitting he nearly got taken out, Ficelle notes Diamond's rare skill. She can change spells like few others. Alucia Citrus shows up to thank Ficelle for delivering potions before heading out. She and Serena Lysandra then ask Beryl to help train rookie adventurers per their guild leader's request. He's tasked with assessing and prepping them for their first dungeon. Beryl reflects on his old adventuring dreams, how loot seemed promising, until a monster crushed him. He warns dungeons are dangerous, but Lysandra is confident they'll be safe under his watch. Alucia, hesitant but practical, sees it as a chance for him to grow. Despite agreeing often, the tension between her and Lysandra confuses Beryl. Alucia eventually urges him to hear the guild leader out, reminding him that special instructors work independently. Lysandra takes him to meet the leader. Surprisingly, Lucy Diamond is already there sipping tea. She knows the guild head, who introduces himself as Midas. Trusting Lysandra and the twin dragon blades, he believes Beryl is fit for the job. Lucy adds her own recommendation. Feeling sidelined, Beryl realizes his opinion barely matters. Nidus introduces Megan, his aide, who wants to clear something up despite Beryl's backing. Megan thinks it's risky to let a rookie join an assault team. Beryl, half embarrassed and half relieved, silently hopes this gets him out of it. But Lysandra accuses Megan of disrespect and Lucy questions his trust. Megan says decisions are made as a group, and with odd monster sightings lately, Beryl must prove himself by dueling Lysandra and the twin blades. Beryl is stunned, but the others support it. Nidus asks if he's willing, and Beryl nervously agrees. The adventurers' leader hauls the master to the headquarters training grounds, where members are shocked to see the renowned Lysandra facing off against an unknown middle-aged man. Beryl, already regretting being there, remembers Lysandra is a top-tier adventurer. The girl, excited to finally spar with her master, recalls a childhood memory, riding a carriage packed with goods worth years of income. Her merchant parents hoped to give her a better life, but their journey was cut short when a monster attacked, killing the coachman. Her mother, Serena, urged her to flee, but the beast overturned the carriage, sending Serena over a cliff into a river. Later, the girl awoke to find herself rescued by Beryl Gardnet, who took her in. When he asked about the attack, the trauma overwhelmed her. At the time, Beryl lived with his parents, and though no one knew what became of the girl's family, he asked to care for her until she found a new home. Serena was withdrawn, irritable, and quiet for days, but those around her remained patient and cared for her. One day, she watched Beryl train with a wooden sword and showed interest. Encouraged to try, sword practice became part of her routine. She grew close to Beryl, who became her mentor and helped her regain confidence. Eventually, she began training at the dojo and felt a strong sense of belonging. Her sensei, always kind, believed she had talent, especially with twin swords. Later, Beryl's family found a new home for her, but promised she could always return. Grateful, she left in tears, though she wished she could stay. 20 years later, now known as Lysandra, she became a gold-ranked adventurer. When asked why, she said she wanted to see the world. On one mission, her carriage was attacked by bandits, led by a famed local swordsman. Without hesitation, Lysandra rushed the bandits and swiftly defeated them with her twin swords. She hadn't become an adventurer just for her stated reasons. Her true goal was to prevent others from suffering as she had and to honor her master's teachings. Now standing before the man who changed her life, Serena, she greeted him just as she did in her youth, and he smiled, touched by her memory. But she was no longer his student. He chose to honor her with a worthy duel. Lysandra struck from above with her wooden blades, forcing Beryl to defend against her impressive speed. Though he expected her skill, her speed still surprised him. Lysandra, thrilled by the chance to fight her master, struggled to land a hit, knowing full well she might not succeed even at her best. Yet the chance to face him with her current strength made her smile. Beryl studied every move, impressed by her stamina and dedication. But then he found an opening. He caught her left blade with his own and disarmed her, using the moment to pin her to the ground. After declaring victory, the adventurers cheered, impressed by the duel. Nidus admitted it was amazing, and Lysandra, as usual, praised him, though he confessed he would have lost if the fight had lasted 10 more seconds. He realized the girl hadn't mastered her left hand yet, and she agreed she needed to train it to match her dominant one. Lucy arrived laughing, seeing the instructor lecturing an advanced class, while Megan apologized for doubting Gardnet. Ever humble, Beryl accepted it and passed the novice adventurer's training to the master swordsman, regretting he couldn't decline. The next day, Lysandra introduced his first apprentices, Porta, Nidri, and Sarlikats. Porta and Nidri were bronze class. Sarlikats was silver. Early in their training, they entered a cave where Sarlacc sensed 6 foes with a magical device. 3 goblins tried to ambush them, but the young fighters easily won. Beryl thought they barely needed his help. Hours later, the dungeon was clear, and both Beryl and Lysandra praised them, though the advanced class found it odd there were so few enemies. Suddenly, Sarlacc's device shattered, and a winged beast slashed Porta. It was a griffin-like creature called Cenegravel, likely the reason the dungeon was empty. Beryl instantly reflects on his misfortune, facing such a beast when he never wanted to be involved. He asks Serena for potions, and she confirms she has 2. The professor considers aiding Porta, while the student battles the griffin, but Serena misinterprets and dashes off with Porta, leaving Beryl alone against Cenegravel. Despite his age, Beryl withstands the creature's attacks, though his sword barely dents its steel-like armor. Knowing one hit could kill him, he focuses on buying time. Serena and Porta escape into the dungeon, while Beryl blocks a powerful strike that injures his arm and throws him meters away. Refusing to give up, he aims for the monster's face, but narrowly dodges a fireball. He manages to sever Cenegravel's tail during a counterattack, showcasing his legendary skill. Enraged, the griffin unleashes a massive fire blast, forcing Beryl Gardenet to retreat with great effort. Beryl takes a headbutt he can't avoid and is dragged into the woods by the savage bird, which then soars into the sky with him clinging on. After freeing himself by circling the creature's body, Gardenet finds himself dangerously high, but through grit and patience, he hangs onto its feathers until he's finally dropped back to the ground. Furious, the Cenegravel unleashes a roar that turns the surrounding earth, including Beryl's spot, into molten lava. Beryl leaps to a nearby rock, noticing the lava creeping into the dungeon where his friends Nidri and Sarlacc struggle to save the injured Porta. Hearing Nidri's desperate cry, Beryl realizes he must act. Carefully stepping across the searing surface, he aims a deadly strike at the bird. Cenegravel, now enraged, counters with a barrage of fireballs, but Beryl dodges them with precision, closing in to stab the beast in the eye, though the bird shatters his sword in retaliation. Just then, Serena Lysandra reappears, launching a surprise attack and driving her twin blades into Cenegravel's back, ending the fierce fight. After the battle, Serena credits their victory over the beast to the master's efforts. Even though he disagrees, she admits arriving too late, allowing the griffin to destroy the Sensi's sword. Meanwhile, Beryl focuses only on Porta's condition, and the officer reassures him that Porta will recover. In fact, Beryl sees when the young adventurers emerge alive, though Porta is unconscious. Schurner tells the former professor the situation reminds her of old times, stirring his own memories. Later, Lysandra returns to the guild, impressing Nettis, who can hardly believe they defeated such a dangerous target while safeguarding recruits. Serena insists the master's presence saved them all, and Megan expected nothing less from someone who once beat a black-class adventurer. Though the guild leader tries to invite the master to join, Garnet declines before he can finish. Afterward, Serena tells Beryl he could never be just an adventurer. Beryl feels they overestimate him, but Serena, bowing an apology, admits she exaggerated his skills, though she still believes he's incredibly powerful and thanks him for letting her fight alongside him. Beryl thanks the girl, recognizing her smart decisions were vital to the team's success and safe return. Touched by her growth, Serena Lysandra fondly remembers her own mentor and nearly starts a speech about the past, but quickly shifts the topic. After traveling with Lysandra, Beryl now follows another former student, Kiruni, to a city blacksmith. Though Beryl thinks Alucia had other duties, she insists helping him choose a sword is urgent. Flustered, Beryl overhears her mumbling about Lysandra and Kiruni covering other errands, leaving her eager to assist. When he asked about it, she dodges the question and tells him to wait and see. At the forge, the blacksmith greets them warmly, and Beryl instantly recognizes Balder, a former student. Both are surprised and happy to reunite. When Alucia asks about their connection, Beryl explains that Balder Gasp had been older than him at the dojo. Back then, Beryl hoped training would help him craft better swords. He's glad Balder now runs his own forge, though Balder is amused by Beryl's surprise. Kiruni asks for her short sword to be sharpened, but Balder recommends replacing it due to damage. Alucia finds it odd, since Kiruni usually maintains Kiruni's gear. When Beryl asks how the sword feels, Kiruni says it's light and easy to use. Gardenet suggests she try a heavier two-handed Zweihander instead. Despite her small frame, Kiruni handles it easily and chooses to buy it. With her decision made, Beryl starts browsing for a sword. Although Alucia suggests a custom weapon, he's content exploring the shop. Suddenly, Serena arrives looking for Balder and runs into Alucia, reigniting their quiet rivalry for their teacher's favor. Beryl steps in to diffuse the tension and asks why Lysandra has come. She explains she wants to forge a longsword from the claw of the slain griffin. Balder, surprised it's Cenegravel, questions the need for another weapon, but Lysandra says it's a gift for her master, who's greatly helped her. Beryl thinks she deserves to keep the claw, but Alucia argues the order should have supplied better equipment. Still, Lysandra insists, feeling indebted for past mistakes. As Gardenet considers, Balder suggests accepting and Beryl agrees, pleasing Serena but disappointing Alucia. While Beryl examines the rare material, Baldur's expression shows he hopes for something grander than the simple sword Beryl requested. Baldur asks for a week to craft the weapon, and just as Beryl expects some free time, Kiruni drags him to the training grounds. Since he recommended the two-handed sword, he now must teach her. He explains this Zweihander's power comes from wide, swinging strikes using momentum, not just strength, and highlights the ricasso for balance. Kiruni struggles until Beryl advises moving from the hips, after which she improves quickly, reminding him of her early days. That evening, Beryl heads to a tavern to relax and celebrate her growth. Afterward, while wandering the streets, a hooded girl tries to pickpocket him. She summons a giant fireball to escape, leaving behind a necklace Beryl finds and inspects curiously. Meanwhile, the thief flees to a hidden den where she's scolded but defended by her companions. At the training hall the next day, Kiruni practices with her greatsword while Hemblitz spars with Beryl, still unable to land a hit. Trying a feint, Hemblitz aims for Beryl's abdomen, but Beryl counters and wins again. Hemblitz thanks him for the lesson and Beryl acknowledges his progress. Hemblitz then praises Kiruni's bold weapon switch, noting her potential and how vital it is for the Knight's Order to strengthen for a raid on the Twilight Thieves, who've been stirring up trouble in the capital. Though he jokes Beryl could handle them alone, Beryl has no interest in such work. Still, he recalls the ring he took from a pickpocket, wondering if it might help the investigation. Kiruni, seeing it, assumes it's a gift, and Hemblitz plays along. Beryl tries to explain the ring isn't a gift, but Kirudi jokes he'll need a bigger one if he's proposing to Alucia. Confused by the assumption, Beryl finally explains he got it from a pickpocket he caught yesterday. She escaped using fire magic, which surprised him. Kai finds this odd, as magic users can study for free at the Institute and don't need to steal. Hemblitz suggests the girl might use a magic item and asks what Beryl will do with the ring. Beryl says he'll return it, and Hemblitz tells him to leave it at the Knight's Order desk, which he does. With that settled, Beryl decides not to pursue the girl, though her looks still bothers him. Later, while exploring the housing market, he's shocked by how expensive everything is. Beryl could technically afford the item thanks to his pay from the Knight's Order, but it was still a steep price. As he hesitates, he notices a girl behind him looking around and goes to help, only to realize it's the same girl who tried to rob him the night before. When he mentions a ring, she attacks him, thinking he stole it. Beryl calms her down and explains he already left it at the Knight's Order front desk. Since she can't go there herself, he asks if she stole it, but she denies it, and that's enough for him to offer help. He suggests she come with him, pointing out it'll be easier to retrieve the ring if he vouches for her. Though clearly annoyed, she agrees. At HQ, Beryl retrieves the ring but stalls, wanting a word with her first, right as Alucia appears and jumps to the wrong conclusion, assuming the girl is Beryl's secret daughter. Beryl denies the accusation and everyone goes inside so he can explain things to Alucia. Once she understands, Alucia asks what he wants to do about Mui. Normally, Alucia would arrest her, but Beryl doesn't want to get her in trouble. He asks if she'll stop stealing, but she dodges the question and demands the ring back. Her honesty and not lying makes Beryl see her as a good kid deep down. Alucia, having heard Mui use magic on Barl, asks if it came from an accessory or was natural. Mui says it was her own power. Alucia explains that magical talent means the kingdom will support her, so there's no need to steal. Mui opens up and says she needs 5 million Doc to revive her sister, as promised by her boss. Beryl realizes the boss is lying, resurrection isn't possible, but knows Mui won't believe him yet. Alucia steps out to check something, leaving Beryl and Mui alone. He offers cookies. She declines, though clearly hungry, so he brings her bread. She devours it, and Beryl feels relieved to have found her after seeing her sadness the day before. Mui returns the ring, ready to leave after overstaying, but Lucy bursts in, having heard from Alucia that Mui has magical potential. As head of the magical court, Lucy invites her to join the Institute, but Mui declines. She's saving 5 million Doc to pay a wizard to resurrect her sister. Lucy, stunned, says resurrection magic doesn't exist, but Mui insists she saw it. In truth, the wizard only twitched the corpse using telekinesis, which grief-blinded Mui mistook as real. Lucy, suspecting a scam, demands the wizard's name and vows to pay if it's true, but punish him if not. Mui reveals his name, Twilight, leader of the Twilight Thieves. Lucy takes Beryl to confront him, leaving Alucia behind to avoid drawing attention. At the hideout near the main road, Lucy blasts in. While Beryl handles the bandits, defending Mui, Lucy confronts Twilight, who attacks with magic gear. He lifts her with telekinesis, the same trick he used to fool Mui, and mocks her for believing him. As he readies a fireball, Lucy knocks him out with wind magic. Upstairs, Beryl defeats the rest and silences one who insults Mui. Lucy drags Twilight out and forces him to confess. Mui, devastated, learns her sister is truly gone. The knights arrive to arrest the gang, but Alucia notes Twilight's gear hints at something bigger. From afar, a cloaked figure triggers a device that kills Twilight and reports to the Pope, who's pleased. The loose end is gone, and the corpses will serve his dark plans. The next day after training, Alucia pulled the master aside to share news. Twilight had died during transport to prison, mysteriously exploding and leaving only his enchanted implants behind. These are now under examination using the magic core. Witnesses, including Twilight's own crew, were clueless, confirming Lucy Diamond's theory that someone else had been controlling him. Meanwhile, Beryl picked up his custom sword, forged from the bones of a named beast. Though he found it a bit flashy, Kiruni insisted it matched him well and even made her uneasy just sensing its edge. Accepting this, Beryl decided to try it out. On the way to the training hall, he admitted he never felt at ease wearing a blade. Then they bumped into Lucy, who needed the master's attention, forcing Kirin to miss the sword's debut. The professor headed to Lucy Diamond's estate, where she mentioned encouraging Mui to join the Magic Institute. Over tea, they were joined by Ibroy Howman, a priest from Sveen, neighboring Fenugarvania. He and Lucy explained that all of Twilight's magic gear came from Sveen, embedded by Bishop Revios' man Sarlian, who had hired Twilight to collect bodies. Once Twilight was captured, he was likely disposed of through magical control. Revios had been collecting bodies, chasing what he called the miracle of Sveen, what others know as sorcery. Lucy explained that this miracle, believed to be resurrection, is said to be a divine act only Sveen, the true god, can perform, though it's widely regarded as myth. Still, Revios is obsessed with proving it's real. Action is needed, but it's tricky. He's currently at the Sveen Church in northern Liberus, and the Order plans to summon him tomorrow. If he flees home, reaching him will be nearly impossible. That's why swift action is key. A direct clash with the church could spark an international crisis, and as a lowly priest, I can't challenge a bishop. That's where Beryl Garnet steps in. He also hoped this mission might lead him to Mui's sister's body, giving the girl closure. With that, the swordsman accepted the job, just as he ran into Mui, arriving with supplies Lucy requested. He was relieved to see Lucy caring for her and noted how much she'd grown. Mui felt something stir inside her, still unsure why this man showed her such warmth. Lucy softly said that it's normal for adults to care for kids. Still, Mui was confused. She'd once tried to rob the professor, yet now they offered her shelter. Sensing this, Beryl told her not to overthink it and to focus on feeling safe, as no one here meant her harm. She had a future worth embracing. Mui, still cautious, began to trust a little, moved by their kindness. Though overwhelmed, she pushed herself to stay strong. Meanwhile, Revios received a long-awaited delivery, and Beryl closely observed the bishop. While tailing him, a cloaked man stopped Beryl in the street, revealing himself and accusing him of Twilight's ruin. Beryl suspected he was a knight under Sveen, and he was right. The man summoned backup and retreated, leaving 3 soldiers behind to confront Gardner. Calling on Xian's power, they enhanced their bodies and attacked, putting Beryl in real danger. Forced to respond, he dodged and cut one down, realizing the true power of his new blade. 2 more struck, and soon 3 others joined the fray. A sudden surge of magic ripped through the battlefield, scattering the attackers and saving Beryl. Facel appeared, spell ready, rushing to aid her former master, with Kiruna close behind, sword in hand, charging the enemy. They claimed they were just passing by when they saw him in danger, though Beryl doubted it. Still, both fought fiercely, cutting down soldiers with skill and strength. As the knight's enhancements wore off, reinforcements arrived, but the women insisted they could handle it. Trusting them, Beryl resumed his mission and entered the church, where Bishop Revios awaited with the enemy commander. Revios ordered the man Spur to eliminate Beryl, then invoked his god's power. The supply crates burst open, revealing corpses that rose as undead. Horrified, Beryl recognized one, Mui's sister, unmistakable with her necklace and blue hair. Disgusted but resolute, he struck down the zombies, their bodies vanishing in blue flames until she finally came close, impossible to ignore. Instead of unsheathing his sword immediately, Beryl embraces the girl, grieving what she's become. Only then does he sever her neck, offering her the same mercy as the others. She slowly crumbles away like ash in the wind, consumed by the same blue flame, leaving only the necklace she once shared with her sister. Beryl keeps it, along with the heavy remorse of being part of such a tragic moment. Spur, however, remains entirely unmoved. He even begins to pray, summoning divine power to strengthen his body for the coming battle. When finished, he charges at Gardnet with frightening speed and displays overwhelming might. Despite the relentless barrage threatening his life, the experienced professor manages to stand his ground. To Beryl, this fighter surpasses Serena's agility and Hemblitz's force, a deadly mix for any opponent. As if things couldn't get worse, one of Spur's strikes actually injures Beryl, something that hasn't happened since he joined the Order. It's clear now he's truly in peril. Still, he refuses to let someone who plays with human lives go unpunished. With a sudden surge, Beryl rejoins the fight and hits Spur's arm. Though wounded, Spur vows not to fall, claiming divine protection shields him. Then, disturbingly, he stabs his own arm with a dagger, growing even more powerful. His fury intensifies and a twisted delight appears on his face. Beryl is soon covered in cuts, his limbs slashed repeatedly, but sheer willpower keeps him upright. Spur launches a head-on strike that grazes Beryl's shoulder, but Beryl's counter lands hard. With room to strike, Beryl slices a deep wound into Spur's arm and slashes his chest, halting the knight's next attack. Blood pours, but Spur props himself up with his sword instead of falling. Beryl is stunned he's still standing. Spur charges again, but blood bursts from within him as his strength fades. Still, he advances like a doomed man until his sword slips and he finally collapses. Beryl condemns his path, but Spur claims the old man would never understand, something Beryl silently agrees with. With Spur down, Beryl exits the church to find his old students and a captured Bishop Rivios, who insists his defeat means nothing. The bishop warns that only divine miracles can save Fenugarvania. The next day, Gardenin arrives at Lucy Diamond's where she already knows what happened. Beryl regrets failing Mui, but Lucy dismisses his guilt and brings him to a house she's gifting him. Inside, sweeping the floor, is Mui, alive. She's finally chosen to go back to school. Now the only question is whether she'll stay with Beryl, something that completely blindsides the professor. Because Mui needs a parent or legal guardian to register, Beryl could sign the forms. But he could do more than that. He could truly become her guardian, her father in every meaningful way. After dropping that revelation, Lucy tells Mui what Beryl did for her the night before. It's time, she says, for the girl to believe that some adults still care. Hearing this, Mui walks down the hall and asks if she can have a room. But before anyone replies, she walks in like it's already hers. That's when Beryl understands he's just become a dad. His smile says everything. There's no going back. Beryl and Mui spent the afternoon watching an intense play about a messy love story. Beryl liked it, but Mui was annoyed by the selfish protagonist, though she still had fun. Beryl thought the heroine was worse and quietly hoped their argument might bring them closer, but by the next day, they still fell apart. When Mui went to enroll at the Magic Academy, her guardian Gardenet tried to come, but she clearly wanted to go alone. Still, he walked her to the gate. There, Beryl saw students levitating a giant rock before a teacher named Kinnera greeted them and offered a tour. Beryl agreed awkwardly while Mui froze, shy but sweet. Kinnera chuckled and led them inside. Beryl was amazed, even the windows were real glass. When asked for a referral, he casually named Commander Diamond, which stunned Kinnera. As students passed and greeted her politely, she explained they were trained as elite mages, manners included. Beryl quietly wondered if Mui would fit in. Kinnera brought them to a room and explained Mui didn't need to take the entrance test. Her letter guaranteed admission. She only needed to pick a focus. A bit nervous, Mui said she could only summon fire, so Kinnera suggested offensive magic and briefly described the 5 types. Mui also had to decide about dorm life, so Kinnera showed her around. Mui was amazed. The place was massive and beautiful, with daily meals, a rotating bath schedule, and a furnished room. On the way out, Mui called it a dream, and Beryl asked her to lunch downtown, secretly hoping she'd stay. He worried she might not blend in. Maybe she was just shy around older men. The charcuterie was full, but Serena showed up and invited them over. Beryl thanked her for the sword, but she waved it off. After sipping her drink, she asked about Mui. Beryl paused, then said she was the girl he was now looking after. Serena almost spat out her drink for some strange reason, then coughed and quickly apologized for interrupting. When the food came, Beryl asked about work. She said monster hunts near the capital were more frequent lately, not because of creatures, but because a delegation from Sphena Gardania was visiting Liberis for the annual Alliance Summit, and the city needed to be secure. Beryl was surprised adventurers had national responsibilities. After lunch, he told Mui to head home since he had to stop by the Order's HQ. Before she left, he asked Serena to give her some advice, especially with magic school starting. Blunt as ever, Serena warned that only the best survive the Institute and quitting isn't an option with Beryl as a mentor. Mui admitted he was strong, which rubbed Serena the wrong way. She didn't like how the girl referred to her teacher. Beryl stepped in to ease the tension, and Serena admitted she overreacted out of respect for him. Since Mui seemed to understand, Serena wished her luck. Mui thanked her and left. Beryl felt she opened up a bit, and Serena even said the girl had potential, rough around the edges but genuine. Beryl agreed, thinking she just needed the right place to grow, though he had no idea what that might be. In the training hall, the sensei discusses Mui's living situation with Alucia. Should she stay with Beryl or move into the school dorms? Alucia is caught off guard by the news and takes a moment to process it. Kai barges in, insisting the dorms are better. Close to class, no long commutes, free meals. Just like Fee said, they're a lifesaver. Beryl gets it, but worries Mui won't fit in. Henblitz encourages taking risks, and Alucia agrees with both. Beryl later checks with Lucy Diamond, who also supports the dorm idea. While they're talking, Felice drops off something, and Lucy asks if she lived in the dorms too. Felice says yes, it's convenient. When Lucy mentions Mui's enrollment, Felice adds she might be her teacher. That bothers Beryl, and he leaves suddenly. Felice asks what's wrong, and Diamond says he's overthinking. Alone, Beryl reflects he'd hoped to be a father figure to Mui, especially since she'd never had one, and felt a quiet joy in which she once claimed a room as her own. Though he wanted to be a good role model, Beryl knew Mui's comfort came first, and she was clearly enchanted by the dorms. Later, he arrives home with groceries when Mui complains about a noise coming from a dresser. Investigating, Beryl finds a hole behind it and 3 rats dart out. Alarmed, he throws open the windows and grabs a broom, ready to fight. Mui, unimpressed, tells him to calm down, but he insists rat bites are serious. As he lunges, the rats dodge easily. Mui casually mentions she's used to rodents from her old neighborhood, and Beryl replies she won't have to live like that anymore, something that strikes her deeply. 1 rat escapes, while the others mock Beryl. He ditches the broom, grabs his jacket, and tries to trap them, failing repeatedly. Frustrated, he finally loses it and hurls the table, crushing one with wild, determined fury. They say to judge results, not methods. 1 rat was bagged, but another slipped away into the bathroom. It leaped into the tub, and Beryl chased it, clueless about its instincts. The rat mocked him, landing on his shoulder. Then fire flashed. Mui had stepped in silently, spooking it into Beryl's hands. She vanished without a word. The rat bit him before he tossed it out the window. Revenge or kindness? That night, Beryl patched the wall and resumed life. While cooking, he felt a quiet warmth. Mui had called him when afraid and even helped. Maybe she'd be okay. She joined him in the kitchen. He handed her bread, but she was there to help. He asked her to peel bacon. Still, a soft sadness hung in the air. Just as they were growing closer, she was planning to go. Maybe spending the holidays at home was best. They ate together. He thanked her, and she said she wanted to learn to cook. He said there was no rush, but she said she had to learn now. Dorm food was free. He didn't get it. Then she told him she'd stay. He argued the dorm was better, but she stood firm. Someone finally cared and she wanted to give back. He just had to say how. Her words struck him silent. She teased him about rats, making him smile. She said all she ever needed was warmth. Touched, he promised to make soups daily. She rolled her eyes and told him to ditch the creepy smile before running off to the dorms. The following day during practice, Alucia approaches the instructor with news she claims could impact his future. A few students glance nervously at the commander, expecting something serious, but it's just a clothing issue. A delegation from Senegardania is visiting Baltrain. Beryl mentions Serena already informed him, which irritates Alucia, another point in their quiet rivalry. She explains their group will be protecting the guests, and she also wants to arrange a meeting between Beryl and both royal families. While Kiruni and Hemblitz see it as a chance to boost his reputation, Beryl remains unenthusiastic, modest as always. Alucia reminds him that his royal appointment comes with duties, and he reluctantly agrees. The commander notes he'll need suitable attire and unfamiliar with local shops, ends up accepting Alucia's offer to take him to a tailor, exactly what she wanted. After she departs, the students wonder if she has ulterior motives. That evening, Mui tells Beryl a package arrived for him. He opens the package to find a box of women's clothes and a note that says, "Dear Beryl, please accept this as a sign of my thanks." There's no signature, and Beryl suspects it could be from Father Abroy. Mui notes the frilly outfits aren't really her thing, but her dad laughs and encourages her to browse. There's plenty to pick from. Over dinner, he shares that he's been assigned to protect VIPs and needs formal wear for an outing with Alucia. He invites her to join, but she instantly declines. He nudges her, saying Citrus is great with kids, but her irritated tone stops him. What's bothering her? Honestly, he just doesn't get teenage girls. The next day, Beryl meets the commander, who swapped armor for casual wear. The professor compliments her looks, leaving her flustered. They head to the tailor, trailed by Hemblitz and Kiruni, who try to stay hidden. At the shop, Beryl pauses to admire the upscale vibe of Baltrain's central district. Though confident, he admits he feels a bit out of place. Alucia reassures him. Inside, the tailor warmly greets Miss Citrus, while Beryl stands awestruck, overwhelmed by the endless racks like a kid in a candy store. The country boy doubts his fashion sense for the big event and lets Alucia choose. Unfortunately, she picks a terrible doublet and asks if he likes it. Even with the shopkeeper hyping it, Beryl stands his ground and requests another option. He starts to question if handing her control was a bad idea. He's not about to leave dressed like a floral couch. To avoid that, he shows interest in a plain brown outfit. Alucia thinks it's too dull, but he insists, so she asks the shopkeeper to hold it while they browse more stores. Outside, 2 students quietly observe. Alucia invites Beryl to lunch, and when he agrees, she beams. Kiruni and Hemblitz begin to suspect something more might be going on. She takes him to an upscale restaurant where he's clearly out of place. He'd never come here on his own. When the elegant food arrives, he hesitates to eat it. Meanwhile, Alucia quietly celebrates pulling off a not-so-subtle date, grinning as she laughs uncontrollably. Beryl checks on her, and she realizes she may have overdone it. Hemblitz and Kiruni watch from behind a plant, surprised to see the usually serious commander this happy. Kiruni remarks that this really does look like a real date. Drat jokes that this must count as a date, but Kiruni insists it's not. That evening, Beryl and Alucia head home. Despite browsing several stores, he sticks with the first outfit. Alucia briefly recalls a time the professor took the blame for her ending up in danger after going to a dojo alone. He tried to comfort her with a meal, but they never actually ate. Today felt like they finally got to finish that moment. Without saying much, Alusha parts ways with him. Kirubi notices the commander watching the instructor leave. Hemblitz then casually tells his superior he'd been tailing her all day. She's unfazed, saying she has nothing to hide. Curious, he asks what the instructor really means to her. The next day, during training, Kurumi apologizes for disappearing after Hemblitz confessed, but he reassures her he didn't mention her involvement. When Alusha enters, Kurumi panics and bolts, claiming she needs footwork practice. Drought covers for her, saying she just needs room to train with a giant sword. As Drought brings a memory to mind, Alusha's words from the previous day resurface. She only wanted to make her master proud before quietly departing. She respectfully asks the group to clear the hall so she can duel the new instructor. Drought is caught off guard, but Alusha explains it's to raise the instructor's image before the royals arrive. Even losing to her would prove his worth. Hemblitz senses more behind it, and Alusha admits that if she wins, she'll confess something to Beryl. Once she's gone, Kearney rushes in, guessing Alusha intends to confess her feelings. Hemblitz agrees, praising her brilliance, grace, and strength. Soon, Beryl enters casually, and Alusha challenges him. Though surprised, he accepts. As students gather, Drought referees with his old training sword. Beryl notes they haven't sparred in years and jokes that she might overwhelm him now. Alusha smiles, ready to show why she's called Lightning. At Hemblitz's signal, she strikes with blinding speed, an opening blow meant to test him, not defeat him. Beryl blocks, quickly realizing she's serious. He fends off several blows, pushing her back once, which impresses her. But her swift, unreadable strikes keep him on edge. When he finally counters, she punishes him with a hit to the leg. Despite the setback, he refuses to give up. She launches a fierce combo, and he stumbles as she steps back, proud of what she's become. Hemblitz mutters the match is nearly over. Kai hopes Beryl wins. Maybe it'll push things forward, though she doubts he wants change. Then Beryl understands her footwork, not just speed, makes her untouchable. Realizing the odds doesn't help, Alusha moves like she's got eyes everywhere. Even when she misses, she dodges with ease. Beryl knows he can't win cleanly. When she targets a weak spot near his ribs, he yanks her cape and pulls her down, landing a point. Kiruna questions the move, but Drought just shrugs. Real fights have no rules. Only someone like Gardnet would dare that against the commander. Citrus names Alusha the winner, praising her skill but warning that not all enemies fight fair. The bell rings. Beryl heads to lunch while Kiruni and Hemblitz approach Alusha. Kiruni admits she can't match her and asks what she planned to say if she'd won. Alusha just grins. She was going to ask for new clothes since Beryl bought himself something too. Kiruni feels embarrassed for thinking it was a love confession. She slips away, but Hemblitz still suspects feelings are involved. Alusha insists she only wants her master happy, ideally because of her. They both admit they weren't sure who to root for. That evening, Beryl tells Mui he barely avoided losing. She jokes Alusha clearly wants his full attention. First shopping, now a close quarters duel. She's obviously trying to get close. Beryl tells her to stop fantasizing. Alusha's just his student, and there's a big age gap. Mui thinks he's overthinking, but Beryl feels it's better than ignoring the situation. The following evening, Mui comes home late from orientation to find Beryl has already made dinner and is enjoying a beer. She asks if he really likes it that much, and he replies that nothing relaxes him more after a long day than drinking from his favorite chip mug. He then notices Mui carrying a bag and asks about it. She shows him her new uniform and borrowed beginner magic books from the Institute, which she must return in good condition. Beryl beams with pride. She's nearly an official student, but he remembers that students there had school bags and asks if she got one. Since she didn't, she assumes it's not included. She says her sack will do, but Beryl insists she needs a proper bag. Mui doesn't mind either way, but is touched by his concern. Meanwhile, Serena is summoned by the guild master, who briefs her on a mission. Platinum-ranked adventurers have found and trapped a monster near the capital, but the guild hasn't acted yet due to uncertainty about their ability to handle it. The guild leader asked Serena if she'd be willing to assist, but she explained that her power alone wouldn't be enough against such a serious threat. Right then, someone knocked on the door to inform her that a visitor had come looking for her. Meanwhile, across town, Beryl discovered a nice bag shop and stepped inside, only to realize he had no idea what kind of bag Mui would like. The shopkeeper noticed his confusion and offered help. Beryl said he was searching for a school bag, and the owner quickly guessed that his child must be enrolling at the Magical Institute. Beryl confirmed it, and the owner showed him a selection favored by students there, just what Beryl had hoped for. He picked one up and said he'd take it, but then learned it cost 95,000 DAC. Stunned, Beryl was speechless. The shopkeeper wasn't trying to overcharge him. The bag was crafted from imported Solura leather and was top-notch quality. He even suggested more affordable options, but they looked cheap, which made sense. In the end, Beryl left without buying anything. The high-quality bags were all too pricey, and even though he could afford it now thanks to the knight's order, he didn't want to dip into savings meant for Mui's future. Beryl still wants Mui to have a good school bag, so he needs to find a way to make some extra cash. On his way home, he bumps into Serena, who seems troubled. Curious, he asks what's going on. Shirina explains she was given a difficult mission and isn't sure how to handle it. She apologizes for being selfish, but hopes Beryl can help her out. At first, he doubts he'd be any help on something she finds complicated, but once Serena mentions there's payment involved, he quickly agrees. The next day, they're riding a carriage to the mission site, and Beryl double-checks that their only task is to capture a specific horse alive. Serena confirms this and explains the horse is a gift for the royal family of Sphene, who are visiting for a diplomatic event. When Beryl asks if the Liberian royals hired her, she says yes. That's why she couldn't refuse and needed his assistance. Once they arrive, they meet the team that first spotted the horse, and Serena asks for an update. A man informs her that they've secured the area. They're sure the horse is still in the forest, but none of the traps caught it, so its exact location is unclear. Serena tells the adventurers to guard the perimeter while she and Beryl search. After grabbing their gear, they head in, and Serena describes the horse. Pure white with a silver mane, extremely rare. Beryl, once a skilled monster hunter on his farm, has never tried capturing something alive, especially something clever enough to dodge elite adventurers. They find fresh hoof prints near a watering hole, but Beryl doubts they'll return there, thinking it'll go to another watering spot across the forest. They head there to ambush it. On the way, Serena casually asks if things with Mui are going well. Beryl, caught off guard, says things have improved, though he still struggles to understand her. Serena is surprised given his experience training kids, but notes that teaching and being a father figure are very different roles. They finally reach the waterhole, and Serena explains the plan. When the horse appears, she'll move behind it while Beryl steps in front to block its escape. Then she'll fire a padded arrow, which should spook the horse into bolting forward, right into Beryl's net. It's a solid strategy, but Beryl worries a gift horse might get scared by an arrow. Serena assures him the arrows are tipped with fabric to prevent injury. With that settled, they split up and wait. Soon, the horse arrives to drink, and Beryl, seeing it up close, is stunned by its beauty. Serena creeps into place behind it, and Beryl quietly moves to the front. Once ready, Serena fires, and the startled horse bolts as expected. But instead of running into the net, it leaps clean over Beryl and keeps going. Serena yells for him to pursue it, and somehow Beryl manages to outrun the fleeing horse and get ahead of it again. This time, when he throws the net, the horse dodges. Left with no choice, Beryl jumps on its back to stop it. But since he's never ridden before, he falls off immediately. The horse simply stands still, almost as if mocking Beryl's failure. When Serena tries to rope it, the horse dodges and bolts. They chase it until it's trapped near a ridge. Serena tells Beryl she'll run ahead and scare it toward him so he can grab it. She manages to startle the horse, but instead of running toward Beryl, it leaps onto a nearby spire, clearly proud of outsmarting them again. Suddenly, the spire begins to collapse. Beryl can't let it fall, so he jumps down too, and they both land at the bottom of the cliff. The horse panics, not wanting to be caught, but Beryl tells it to relax. He's stuck too, and can't catch it even if he wanted to. There's no climbing back up, and the horse isn't either, so their only option is to cross the stream. Beryl thinks about swimming, but the current makes it clear that's a bad choice. Instead, he draws his sword and cuts down a tree to form a bridge. The horse seems to realize Beryl is helping and follows calmly. As they cross, Beryl slips, but the horse saves him. Grateful, Beryl realizes they're getting along now, and by the time Serena arrives, there's no need to capture it anymore. They return the horse to town, and the guild leader gratefully thanks Beryl since tasks like this can impact a guild's future. As promised, Beryl gets a generous reward. With that done, they part ways. Beryl buys a bag for Mui with the money, but when he gets home, she's not there. He assumes she's out shopping. Soon, Mui returns and is surprised he actually bought her a bag. Though she said she didn't need one, she's happy to have it. She thanks him and gives him a gift too, a new ceramic mug to replace his chip one. She clarifies she bought it herself after getting a job through Serena, working hard to afford it. That explains why Serena kept bringing her up. Mui urges Beryl to try the mug, and to his surprise, the beer tastes much better than in his old wooden one. She heard ceramic improves the flavor and knew how much he loved his drink, so she saved up by washing dishes. Beryl is deeply moved by her kindness. The next day is Mui's first day of school. Though she says he didn't need to come, Beryl walks her out to see her off. After she boards the school carriage, he heads to the training hall, where Kiruni notices he's in an unusually good mood. Then Alucia arrives, telling him the commander and vice commander of Sphene have shown up and asks him to join their meeting. Beryl agrees, thinking it's wise to keep tabs on Sphene. At the meeting, he's shocked to see the Sphene captain is one of his former students, Rose. Alucia seemed clearly irritated by how overly familiar the girl was with the man, noticing the commander's lack of enthusiasm. Rose quickly explained she had once trained under the famous sword master Beryl, who remembered her well. She had only spent a year and a half in his dojo but left a strong impression with her skill. Rose thanked him intensely, so much so that Alucia looked about ready to slap her. Putting the tension aside, they all sat down and began chatting more civilly. Beryl was still surprised Rose had become the Holy Order's vice commander, and Rose thanked the Godsfiend for reuniting them. Her companion noted how odd it was that Rose and Alucia shared the same teacher. Alucia asked about Heinebus, the former vice commander, and got a vague reply. Picking up on the mood, Henblitz asked if Master Gatova came just to talk. He admitted Rose was here to get familiar with Baltrain and would be staying a few days. Alucia offered to show them around, but Gatova declined. Rose looked disappointed. She had hoped her old teacher would guide her. Beryl forced an awkward smile, trying not to sink into the couch with embarrassment. Later, after his lesson, Professor Gardnet left the training hall thinking his clothes should be ready by now, and on the way, ran into the ever-cheerful Rose, this time without her heavy armor. Without delay, she says she came to see her dear mentor and would be delighted if he gave her a personal tour, so Beryl reluctantly shows her around Baltrain. During their walk, he asks when she joined the Holy Order. She says it was right after leaving the dojo, persuaded by Commander Gatova to serve the country, even though she once dreamed of lounging in hammocks and seeing the world. Beryl understands, having suddenly become a teacher himself, and Rose fondly recalls her favorite time, training under him and praying to Sphene. He brings up her recent promotion to vice commander, but she downplays it, saying they probably just needed someone. Spotting kids near a bridge, she remarks how quickly things changed, then shifts the topic, saying she misses Mr. Mortia and Miss Friend, but still enjoys the city. Beryl agrees, and when he asks what that means for her role, she shrugs again and boldly asks if she could live with him if she moved to Baltrain, which makes him think teens would likely like her and she'd probably click with Mui. Though he firmly declines, Rose lets it go, says goodbye, and Garnet heads off to get his clothes. After putting on the outfit, he instantly regrets it. Not only does he feel ridiculous, but it costs 65,000, far more than his previous high of 10,000. Later, he shows off the fancy look to Mui, but instead of approval, she just turns away, unimpressed. When he asks if she dislikes it, she says, "I never said that." Not what he hoped to hear, but since Mui's tough to impress, Beryl's used to it. She calls him to dinner, and he changes back into his usual clothes. When he returns, she quietly says he looks better that way. He thinks he hears her but doesn't press. At dinner, he compliments her cooking and asks about school. Mui says her classmates keep dragging her around, today to the library, yesterday the art room, the day before that music, and it's tiring. Beryl says they're probably helping her explore, but that's the problem for her. School feels never-ending. Today was worse. The library was packed with dense magic books that made no sense. One had so many tough words she couldn't understand, which reminds Beryl of his own struggles with school forms, so he offers to help her learn anything she finds confusing. The following morning, Commander Alucia informs her unit that Prince Glenn of Stephen Advania will be joining them for 3 days. He'll tour the capital with Princess Salacia in full regalia. Beryl senses this is the moment he's been waiting for. Alucia emphasizes their responsibility to protect the royals. The princess's security detail includes herself, Henblitz, and Beryl. When the royals arrive in Baltrain, Alucia greets Salacia, who mentions Alucia's compliments about Instructor Gardnet. Glenn soon appears with Rose and Gatova, teasing Salacia about how the son flatters her. Rose attempts to regain Beryl's attention, but he stays professional. A carriage arrives for the prince and princess, and Alucia signals Beryl to proceed. Knowing he's a decoy, Beryl enters a different vehicle. Rose offers to join him, but he declines, urging her to follow orders. As they move through the city, Beryl observes the streets packed with soldiers managing traffic. Glenn and Salacia suddenly stop at a shop after noticing a hair accessory. No one objects and Salacia tries it on. Glenn flatters her. A large crowd forms, leaving Beryl stunned. Henblitz explains they're all here for the royals. The crowd cheers as Glenn and Salacia exit. Gatova warns the prince not to cause delays again, and Glenn agrees. In the crowd, Beryl spots a suspicious person but finds nothing and assumes it was his imagination. Later, they're welcomed to the castle with a feast. During lunch, Beryl tells Alucia and Henblitz he felt a threatening presence earlier. Though unsure, Henblitz tightens security. As the royals greet citizens in the courtyard, 3 masked attackers breach the guards. Gatova reacts instantly, followed by the elite team. Rose grabs her shield, and Beryl begins to sense something is off. The attackers don't appear to be assassins, yet 3 more drop from a rooftop clutching smoke bombs. Alucia quickly commands the prince and princess inside as dense smoke engulfs the palace entrance, blinding the guards. One Fu charges at Gardnet with a blade, which he barely blocks, deflecting a follow-up strike. The sensei warns of poison weapons as Gatova kicks an enemy back, though not hard enough to stop him. Amid the prolonged clash, Alucia demands to know who's responsible, while Henblitz gets sand thrown in his eyes, and even Beryl, the elite swordsman, struggles. He blocks a spinning kick, but stumbles from the force, realizing he must go all out or perish. He recovers and lands a sharp elbow to his opponent's face, disarming and finishing him. Blinded, Henblitz relies on his other senses. Sensing an attacker on his right, blocks just in time. Then with perfect stillness and timing, spins and delivers a clean strike that takes down his enemy. Alucia steps in, clashing head-on with her foe, but quickly notices they're fighting dirty. Her opponent yanks her cape to throw her off. She dodges his stab with sharp reflexes and counters with a spin attack. Though he evades the first strike, she still slices his leg, wounding him. With quick, shallow cuts, she disables him. Her goal is to keep him alive for questioning. Meanwhile, Gatobe uses sheer force, slamming his enemy into a palace column and tearing off his mask, but hesitates at the sight of the man's face. That pause costs him. A kick to the knee lets the enemy escape into the crowd. At the same time, Rose Marbleheart bashes her opponent's weapon away with her shield and knocks him down. With the advantage, she ends it swiftly with her sword. As the smoke settles, Beryl is stunned to see her blade in the enemy's skull. He thought she only fought to defend, but clearly, her methods have changed. Hamblitz and the troops capture the last enemies, but seconds later, the prisoners bite something and bleed out, dying almost instantly. Gatobe quietly whispers Hennis's name but pretends all is fine when a knight approaches, claiming the assassin escaped. The royal trip ends early and plans are made for the prince and princess to return to the castle. Alucia leaves Hamblitz in charge but wants Beryl to come back for added security. Once they depart, Beryl asks Alucia about her next move, but she admits she doesn't know, since the captured assassins killed themselves and the rest vanished. Beryl guesses tomorrow's tour will be cancelled. Celicia and Glenn are brought back for safety, and security at the castle will be tightened. Alucia and Gatobe plan to report to their superiors and dismiss Beryl and Rose. Expecting Rose to want another tour, Beryl is surprised when she leaves alone. He heads home thinking Mui should be there, but finds Lucy instead. She says she came to discuss the attack. Beryl realizes it's odd there were no mages guarding the tour. Lucy explains the magic unit had to work secretly this time. New, not wanting to get involved in classified matters, excuses herself, promising to return in 30 minutes. Lucy thanks Mui for giving him privacy, then clarifies that the magic core stayed inactive because Spheen's faith treats magic as a divine gift for true believers, unlike here where anyone talented can wield it, so using it openly could spark political trouble. She thinks today's attack reflects Spheen's turbulent nature and suspects the assassins came from there. Meanwhile, Rose finds Alucia near the training hall. Alucia is surprised since Rose was dismissed earlier, but Rose claims she just wants to see Gatoga. Alucia says he's still with the leaders, so the tour's fate is undecided. Rose mentions the tour covers the agricultural district and asks Alucia for details, preferring her over waiting for Gatoga. She even suggests grabbing coffee to discuss it. Back at Beryl's, he asks Lucy why she's sure Spheen is involved. She says Ibroy gave her intel and confirms Spheen is torn between the Papist faction and royalists. Beryl dislikes political conflict and knows little about politics, so he asks Lucy who holds more sway, the king or the pope. Lucy is shocked at his ignorance but explains anyway. In Spheen, the king wields the greatest authority, yet he must heed the pope due to religious ties. Still, the king's word is final. Today's attack likely came from the pope's supporters seeking more influence. Beryl doesn't see the point in killing Prince Glenn since another prince would replace him, but Lucy clarifies that Glenn's brother Felix is fanatically loyal to the church and could hand power to the pope. Meanwhile, in town, Alucia finishes briefing Rose about tomorrow's route, but Rose asks about Beryl as her former teacher. Intrigued, Alucia stays to listen. Rose didn't train long with Beryl but was instantly captivated by his swordsmanship. Alucia relates knowing Beryl's skill firsthand. Rose recalls training under him years ago and wants to hear Alucia's stories. Alucia shares she was young then and didn't grasp his true greatness, though his praise probably aimed to inspire her. When she finally mastered Beryl's sword style, he declared her graduated, and that was her last day training at his dojo. Rose can tell Alucia is fond of Beryl from how she talks, but he's still as relaxed as ever. Spotting a lost boy on the street, Rose approaches and asks if he's okay. Though startled, he explains he lost his mother. Alucia suggests taking him to the guard station, but Rose thinks his parents must be close since he's clean, not exhausted, and not crying yet. Alucia agrees and they decide to look nearby. Rose asks his name, Ritter, and what his mother wore. He says she has long hair and a red fluffy outfit. Impressed by Rose's way with kids, Alucia searches, but Rose simply shouts for the mother to come get her son. Meanwhile, back home, Beryl begins to piece everything together and it finally makes sense to him. All the captured assassins immediately killed themselves, and the only other time he'd seen such resolve was when facing the bishop's knight. That alone suggests the killers won't stop after failing once, so another strike is likely tomorrow. Just then, Mui comes home, prompting Lucy to wrap up their talk and say goodbye. With nothing else to do, Beryl asks Mui if she wants to start dinner early. Meanwhile, in town, Alucia and Rose find Ritter's mother, and after her heartfelt thanks, she leaves with Ritter. Alucia admires Rose's fondness for kids. Rose explains she often helped at an orphanage where parents supported and believes children are our country's future. Alucia agrees, and as it's late, she says she must return to headquarters, and they part ways. The next morning, the knights gather again, and Alucia announces that despite the attack, the tour with Glenn and Celicia will continue as planned, shocking Beryl, who's certain the assassins will strike again. Alucia later tells him it's Prince Glenn's decision and canceling would damage his standing, so he must proceed despite the danger. As the convoy prepares to depart, Glenn pulls Beryl aside and reveals that one of the attackers was Hennis, his old vice commander who vanished before Rose took over, making the attempt on Sven's prince even more tangled. Gatova demands to handle Hennis himself if he appears again today, and Beryl, after confirming Kova already briefed them yesterday, lets him do it. When Glenn and Silesia reach the farming district, Glenn is struck by the vast wheat fields, and Beryl, seeing such farmland for the first time, is equally stunned. Kiruta mentions it looks nicer on sunny days, so Beryl plans to revisit on his day off. The convoy halts and Gatova opens the door. Glenn insists on sticking to the plan to protect Silesia, despite the risk. They gather to inspect the wheat to avoid seeming afraid after yesterday's attempt on Glenn's life, even though almost no one is around. Suddenly, an arrow narrowly misses Glenn. The ambush is back with archers hidden in the crops. Knights shield Glenn and Silesia while sword-wielding attackers close in. Beryl cuts down assassins. Noticing one gets shot by his own side's arrows, their archers are so reckless, they hit allies. Using the corpse as cover, Beryl keeps fighting but struggles against the rain of arrows and blades. Kiryu also falters, letting an assassin slip past, but Henblitz stops him just in time. Beryl orders Alucia to escort Glenn and Silesia back to the carriage for better protection while he handles the enemies. After carving through more foes in the woods, Beryl runs into Rose, who praises his strength. Thanking her, Beryl draws his sword to end it once and for all as they prepare to duel. Beryl questions Rose if she betrayed her comrades, but she says knocking them out was enough to finish her task and she can't do the same to Beryl. She asks how long he's known, and Beryl admits he's doubted her since she killed the assassin at the theater instead of disabling him, suspecting she meant to silence him and noticing she let more assassins slip past her post. He asks if Glenn becoming king is really worth this chaos, but Rose insists her cause is justified and asks what he'd do in her place, with her homeland falling apart and children starving. Beryl can't answer, but as her mentor, refuses to let her stray further. Rose argues she's saving lives, but Beryl believes the children she wants to protect wouldn't want her to shed blood. Realizing she can't change his mind, Rose draws her sword, but Beryl promises they'll talk properly once he stops her. Meanwhile, back at the carriage, Glenn and Silesia are still shielded by the others, but an assassin Henblitz faces powers up with magic. Alucia urges calm and for everyone to fight on, while Kiruni fears for Beryl but knows they must trust he'll manage alone. Without their knowledge, Beryl is dueling Rose in the forest, but he holds back, unwilling to injure her. She mocks him, questioning how he'll stop her if he won't strike, but he insists it won't be simple for her. Watching her footing in the mud, Beryl predicts her heavy swing and dodges, leaving her exposed. He could have killed her, and Rose realizes she's outmatched. Still, she won't surrender because if she fails, the orphans will die. Beryl is stunned when she reveals the Pope has taken the children hostage to force her compliance. Though Rose claims it changes nothing about her mission to kill Glenn, Beryl's demeanor shifts to rage for the first time, though not directed at her. Rose admits he has every right to blame her. Despite wanting to spare her, Beryl resolves to end this now. Rose rushes him, but he parries and counters even as her shield complicates his attacks. She manages a minor cut on his face, but her shield both guards her and limits her own offense. Beryl presses in, but her defense leaves few gaps. Beryl struggles to read Rose's attacks since her shield blocks his sight, but he finally spots a gap. When she lunges again, he shifts and awkwardly deflects, exposing her completely. This time, he doesn't hold back and slices her chest, blood splattering as Rose accepts she might really die like this. She always knew Beryl was strong but didn't expect such a move. Beryl confesses it was pure instinct and wouldn't have fooled her twice, so he had to end it quickly. Begging him to finish her, Rose wants to die by her master's hand, but Beryl refuses, wanting her to live and pay for her crimes since he partly blames himself for her downfall. Gatova suddenly arrives, horrified at her state, and uses magic to stop the bleeding. He says he handled the archers but followed Rose when she left for the woods alone. Curious, he asks what happened. Beryl explains Glenn and Silesia got away safely but admits he struck Rose down because she helped plan the assassination, shocking Gatova. Rose confirms it, and Beryl adds the Pope forced her by threatening orphaned kids. Gatova is disgusted that the Pope would risk innocent kids' lives, but given how easily his assassins die for him, it's no surprise they'd disregard children too. After hearing Beryl's update, Gatova insists their main goal is rescuing the kids, but first he asks Beryl a favor. He'll claim Hinez masterminded everything and that Rose was hurt fighting him. Rose jokes he'll get into trouble for lying, but Gatova says if the truth spreads, Rose might face execution, which he won't allow. Beryl wonders why Gatova protects her, and Gatova reveals Rose is his stepsister. They grew up together, so he must keep her safe. Beryl is shocked but promises not to betray Rose. Curious, he asks whose side Gatova's on. Gatova, as Knight Commander, stays neutral but personally supports Prince Glenn. Rose doesn't trust the royals since the Pope told her they framed Bishop Rivios. Beryl asks about it and learns Rivios supposedly twisted scripture and broke taboos, but Beryl confirms Rivios was truly guilty. He personally caught him using corpses to attempt forbidden resurrection. Rose, stunned, realizes the Pope deceived her. She starts doubting if his claim about rescuing the children was also false. Beryl, unfamiliar with the Pope, suggests Rose rethink trusting him. This pains Rose, realizing her efforts were in vain, but she vows to survive until she sees real justice and atones for her mistakes, though she's still badly wounded. Gatova picks her up to bring her back, assuring Beryl he'll protect her but warns him to keep this secret because it's dangerous. Meanwhile, Alusha, Kiruni, and Henblitz defeat the assassins near the carriage but stay alert for more. Alusha tells Henblitz to guard the carriage while she searches for Beryl, but he appears just then, explaining he fought with Rose in the forest to cut down the attackers and she was injured, so Gatova is taking her to a healer. He believes no more assassins will come soon. Alusha arranges fresh horses to head home quickly. Back at the training hall, she tells Beryl the leaders ended the agriculture district visit with few casualties, so the royal family's image is safe, but they must repay farmers for crop damage. And Mike then delivers a letter to Alusha. She's been invited to a state banquet for her outstanding work. Beryl feels glad for Alusha because the state banquet seems significant, but he's surprised to find his own name on the invite too and reluctantly attends. Sitting among the nation's elite, he wonders how Alusha stays so composed but figures her role as Knight Commander explains it. When King Gladio and Princess Salacia arrive, the king praises Alusha for helping his daughter and thanks Beryl for fending off assassins, while Salacia compliments his bravery. The king then reveals Salacia will marry Glenn and worries about her safety in Spheen's unstable climate, so he proposes Beryl lead her royal guard. Beryl wants no part of it but can't decline outright. Thankfully, Alusha insists Beryl's needed here, and the king drops the idea but calls him a swordmaster, asking him to keep safeguarding the realm. Beryl feels unworthy of that title since he's never defeated his father. Afterward, he takes the fancy glass plate he got as a palace gift and decides it's too fine to use or stash away, so he sends it to his father with a note explaining the banquet and how the king overestimated him. His father, proud yet aware Beryl doubts himself, looks forward to seeing how strong his son will become. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.